Hello everyone, my name is Fabiano and today I'm going to present Group 2's AMOS project, which is an automated thematic analysis. So first of all, what is thematic analysis? So social science researchers conduct interviews to understand how people think and feel about a topic. For example, our dataset is about how people feel about AI and its impacts on jobs, security, and daily life. After collecting those interviews, they need to find recurring patterns, which we call themes, and organize them into a codebook, which contains all the definitions and descriptions of a theme. Then researchers have to go back through every transcript and tag the relevant codes for the right themes. This allows the researcher to see the statistical distribution and how many people, for example, think a particular theme and feel a particular way. This is a very time-consuming process if done manually. It could take weeks. Our solution is to automate this entire pipeline. So you would upload your transcripts and the system generates a codebook automatically for you. It then applies that generated codebook back to every transcript, tagging each quote on every transcript to its theme. And then you can see how every theme is present on every interview. You can also cross-reference with demographic data like age, profession, income to see how different groups of society feel about that particular theme. Now, let me show how it works. So when you first open the application and run it on your machine, this is the home page that shows up. Here you can see the different pages that are available and you can also set your LLM provider. This is the API that is going to be used in the back end to do the two main generation and codebook application processes. The first step is to upload some data. So here you can choose interview transcripts or a CSV with your demographic data. For the purposes of this demonstration, I have already uploaded some. You can see here we have our demographic data for our data set. You also have all the collection of the transcripts. The next step, once all the data is entered into the system, is to generate a codebook. First, you choose a corpus, which is how we call a collection of transcripts, and then you create a new codebook. There are three main modes for codebook generation. The most interesting one is fully automatic. This one, the system does everything for you. Here you can give it a name. And you can direct the large language model to a particular research question. So you could say what specifically you are targeting. In our case, is the impact of AI in society. Top topics to focus on would be things like productivity, work-life balance, like is said here. And these you can set some parameters. So for example, you could increase or decrease the amount of iterations that the system goes through by refining the codebook. Usually we find that 5 is a good enough number. Codebook generation for 100 transcripts, which is what we have here, would take around 1.5 hours. So I'm not going to click generate, as I have done this ahead of time. We can see here that the system will generate this. This has some data on the generation, such as the time and tokens used, and you can see and edit the codebook. Here you can see that we organize codebooks hierarchically, so parent themes are broad and reflect general trends, whereas more specific themes are more narrow in scope, which makes them easier and more meaningful when applying them to transcripts. You can also edit the themes yourself if you'd like, and also modify their descriptions. Once you have a codebook, then the next step is to go to analysis. This is where the codebook gets to be applied to the transcripts. So you have to select the corpus, the number of transcripts you want, which in this case is all of them. Also the code book, which is the one that we already generated. You could also, for example, upload your own codebook and then have the application be of that new uploaded codebook to the transcripts. Then once you go here, you click Run Analysis. After about 20 minutes for 100 transcripts, you would have this done. And here in this page, you can see the previous analysis that were done in the past. Once you click here, you get to see the result of the analysis. So essentially now, all of the code books, all the themes in the code books were applied to the transcripts. And here you can see the result. They are organized by interview coverage. So here you can see that 85%, most of the interviewees mentioned something about AI governance and job displacement. And then you can click here and you can see the sub-themes which are more narrow. For example, AI forecasted to replace call center and support jobs. So 15% of the people mentioned something about that. So if we click here, we can see all of the interview transcripts that contain that particular theme. So we can click here to see the entire interview. So for example, the theme we were interested in is AI forecasted to replace call center jobs. We can see where it happens right here. This is incredibly valuable for researchers because even if they had the codebook generated themselves, it's incredibly time consuming to tag the particular themes in the codebook to transcripts. You have to imagine that even if you find them in a text reader, there is no easy way to annotate them here. And having a system that does all of that by itself in 20 minutes is a massive time saver. You can also select different analysis runs, and also you can toggle in or off the themes so that you can only read the interview. You can also see the demographic profile of that particular respondents. Another interesting feature is that if you are in an analysis, you can also click on a theme. For example, we were looking at call center replacement. You can also look at the demographic breakdown. You can see by age, so you can see how different ages feel about that. You can see about other features in our data set, for example, income, household size. And this parameter here happens on some demographic variables that are too wide in scope, and this allows you to bin that particular variable. So here, for example, I could set this to 5, and it reduces the number of brackets here for my age. This is also helpful for researchers when trying to get an initial impression of the data set that you have. The final interesting feature of our product is once you have an analysis, which is the application of the codebook to the transcripts, you can export that information. So this way, researchers can use their preferred software for performing further statistical analysis. This will download a CSV which contains all of the information that our system generated. For example, the applications of the themes to the transcripts, which is then saves a large amount of time for the researchers and allow them to continue on writing their reports and presentations. That's it for this demo. I hope you could understand what our product tried to achieve. We believe that we can save researchers a large amount of time. And to recap, there are two main functions that allow us to save researchers time. The first one is to automatically generate codebooks for a set of transcripts, and then the second function is to apply a codebook to a set of transcripts. So that's it for this demo. Thank you very much.